Hello everyone, this is Godzilla1 and I'm back with another video, and my first video other than live streaming in a very, very long time. There are reasons for that, and the major reason is my computer was a 10-year-old dinosaur that was basically on life support. So, yeah, it literally got so old that I could not edit videos on it anymore, and its connection to YouTube was so bad it would take almost a day to upload it, a normal-sized video. So, until I got a new laptop for Christmas, I was basically limited to live streams. But I am not anymore, so let's get back into business with something really special, which in this case will be the Power of the Primes Terrorcons. I love the Terrorcons. Like, they are one of my favorite combiner teams. Probably because they're all based off monsters, and as my name would suggest, I love myself some kaiju. In fact, these guys, until I got Hunger, were posed fighting Godzilla. I will eventually reveal the Godzilla I was posing them fighting, but not right now. Anyway, this is Sinnertwin, who I always found very interesting because his name is kind of the only real pun of the group. Hunger, maybe, but kind of, sort of. I know I normally show the back of the box, but in this case I am going to show the card instead, because this guy has a lot of modes, so I can't really afford to waste much time with him. Because he's got like 4 modes, so this is going to be a chore to get through in a decent amount of time. I love this picture of him on the box. This is also the same picture on the box, so that's why. I love this picture of Sinnertwin. Like, this is a really cool picture. And he looks really menacing, which is appropriate because, of course, Terrorcon. He's, of course, a Decepticon. What else would he be? And I mean that because he's a 2-headed dragon of death. Soulless Sinnertwin creates energy shields that protect Decepticon fortresses. The interesting thing about this is, 1, that doesn't really fit a Terrorcon at all, and 2, these cards have, depending on which one you got, there are variants of these. Like, there are variants of which prime they're connected to, which is kinda cool. But, that's the card. I like it. Let's get on to the main event here with Sinnertwin himself, who is a 2-headed dragon, but is probably, most sources cite him as an Orthros, which is, of course, a 2-headed dog, kind of a Cerberus minus 1 head. And, of course, he has the 2 heads, which are really nicely detailed. I love these heads. They look very menacing and have a lot of little lines, which I think these guys would do good if you, like, panel line them. The overlapping plates on the necks, which is really cool. And, all, like, these guys have a lot of nice little detail, which my camera can't really pick up all that well. But the 2 tails, if he had 1 more head, he'd kind of be representing King Ghidorah. The nice little details on the hind legs. He even has detail underneath, which I find really cool, because you'll never see this part of him. Like, there's underneath in this mode, and every other mode it's on the back. So I find it really cool that they put all this little intricate detail in there. This guy would really do good with some panel lining. Also, this can close flush. I don't, because it makes transforming a pain when it's closed flush. But yeah, he is really cool. I mean, even on his back he has detailing, which is really nice. Especially when we get to something I want to show in a little bit. There's the spikes down the back of his neck, the horn highlighted in purple, and the silver painted teeth. Only the top row are painted, but I appreciate that. And he kind of has a nice, silly little gap there, which I find very amusing. But once we get to the next mode, I'll explain this part, but let's go on to articulation. Heads, independently articulated, can go down that far, can go up that far, and they even have this little bit of extra plastic in here that up to a certain point hides the gap, which I find a really nice and thoughtful touch. Heads cannot rotate down here. They can rotate up here, and it's on a ball joint, can look up, can look down, but not much side to side, which is probably my 1 disappointment with this guy's beast mode. His heads can't actually look at each other, which on Hunger, whose beast mode heads have the 1 personality, that is fine. But with this guy, I kind of expect his heads to have some articulation that can make them look inward, because in the G1 cartoon, his heads had different personalities and would fight each other. So to me, it would make sense that his heads could, like, interact to some degree, but they can just kind of rub up against each other cutely. But, it's what you get. It's still probably one of the most articulated Sinnertwins we've ever gotten other than a third party. Jaws can open and close on both heads. So, with the two heads, he can get a lot of expressive movement out. Like, you know, he can have his heads in all sorts of different configurations, and he gets a lot of character out of that. I love it. I wish they had that extra rotation joint, but even though they don't, he gets a lot of character out of them. The front legs are, of course, going to be the robot mode heads, and this is one problem that's specifically with mine. I've not seen other people complain of this. Basically, the joint that his arms are on mine is not as strong. On this one, it's not as noticeable, but, you know, it can go out that far, forward 360, rotate at the elbow fully, and good knee bend. On this arm, however, the joint it is on is looser than the ball joint it's attached to. That might just be mine. I've never heard of another person complaining, and though that is a problem, I have seen others complain about. This can be very loose and come off very easily. But it's not a huge deal. It snaps right back on. The hind legs do get 360, and in a weird bit, they are kind of semi-ratcheted, which I find really odd. No movement in the tails. But this does make him pretty articulate, especially with the two heads. He can get very expressive. And even these hind legs can be useful if you prop him up against, like, another Transformer and have him, like, mauling them, because he can't actually get his heads down to look at like he is. So, really good articulation on him. For a beast mode, of course. Like, it could be, another Terracon has better articulation in his beast mode than him, but decent articulation. Now moving on to accessories, we of course get the handgun, or bash fist, whatever you want to have it, which is basically a big brick. I think it's the same one that comes with the Volcanicus components, the Dinobots, but you can slot it on there, and if you want to have a Titan Master or Prime Master right up there, you can, and it actually looks pretty cool. You also get his gun, which is a nice little bit of a nicely detailed little gun. Like, I do love, like, let's see if I can get you a little more of an up-close look here. It's a really nicely done gun, and from what I've seen is actually pretty close to his G1 gun. I might be wrong, but from pictures it looks similar. And you can mount it up here if you don't have the gun up there, the handgun up there. You can put it over here. You can even kind of put it under here, which works surprisingly well. Kind of gives me a Zoids vibe. But yeah, he gets a good bit of interaction with his weapons, which makes him a pretty nice little figure. Like, this is probably one of the more organic ways this has been used in a beast, attached to the beast mode. But let's get to its true purpose and show off his other modes. Now, for starters, you want to fold up his tails, and we're going to do leg mode, of course, first. And you want to tab these in down here to these little pegs. There's a little slot inside the foot that goes into this little peg down here. This is the only time you will use those slots, by the way. And also on mine it did it automatically, but you also want to have the shoulders up here in this mode. And put the legs, I prefer to put them like up like this. Ignore that, that's someone downstairs. I prefer to put them like that because they look better to me. And then fold down his necks. Now, officially, you're supposed to have the heads like that. I prefer to, actually, I think they're supposed to be like that, which I think looks really dumb. So I prefer to have his heads rotated around, so the purple is pointing forward to add some detail. And there we have leg mode. He does not come with a leg joint. I mean, a foot that comes with hunger. But it does look really cool. I think he makes a good leg. He's going to be a leg of my Abominus. So, and it actually is the leg of my Abominus. I don't have Blot yet. I've got another person standing in. But he will be a leg of Abominus. Blot will be getting here soon. That's why I'm doing these reviews now. He should be here in this week here. He's on his way. But onward to arm mode. And I'm not showing off the details because the details are exactly the same. Oh, and of course, you know, rotate up the combiner peg, which doesn't really affect the appearance from the front, so I kind of forgot about it. You want to open up the back, which is, again, why I did not close it all the way, because this can be a major pain to do if you don't. I mean, if you don't have, like, fingernails, which I do have fingernails because I work at a dollar store and I need them to open, like, stock and get it out on the shelves. And, you know, you want to bring the legs down, peg them back together if they unpeg like they just did for me. And this is a really annoying connection here. You also want to bring this down for the arm mode. And fold these down so they're out of the way. Then you want to get everything past each other. Like, look at all the stuff that has to go past each other in there. It's kind of ridiculous. But it feels like, you know, you might accidentally break it, but you do actually have to do some of this like this because you got to align certain things right. I find he's a bit of a pain in that regard, but just bear with it and eventually everything will finagle into place and hold itself together. Because this is the part that you need to do this. Like, these two need to align, and they can't really align from the side, which means you've got to align them from the top. So this whole thing is a bit of a pain to get across. But once you do, everything is fairly secure and will hold together decently. Then you want to fold these down like that. And this is important. You do not use these for the arm mode. My brain keeps thinking you do. You don't. You instead use these little peg slots right here. And they peg in right like that. It's actually fairly secure and will hold him in place quite well. Then you rotate, let's make him a right arm. Then you take the handgun, unpeg it, do it. I hate the fact they have two thumbs. I really don't like that. But whatever, you put it like that, and then you peg it in here. And there you have his arm mode, which I don't think he makes as good of an arm as he does a leg, but he does make a pretty solid, good arm, and he holds together this very well. Of course, you know, he has the standard articulation. He can move at the elbow, he can move there. He's got a nice elbow joint, wrist swivel. So he's a good arm. He's a very good combiner arm. But we'll get more into that when, of course, we do Abominus. Now, to get fully to robot mode, you want to separate his legs. Rotate everything like that. Rotate this down. Adjust my camera because he is too tall now. Unpeg the arms if you're transforming from arm mode. And then flip these to the back. And flip these out from the side, the hands out from the side. Again, place where you need fingernails. I have fingernails because, again, I work at a store where I have to open packaging, and it makes things a lot easier. Then fold out the hands, like that. And lastly, fold back the backpack and flip out the head. And there you have Sinnertwin in robot mode. And he is a blocky guy. Like, he is a very blocky dude. I mean, look at his chest. That is just a block. But it works for him. He looks nice. This is my least favorite mode of him because I just think, like, he's got a bit too wide of a chest for my aesthetic tastes. But that's just me. Let's get a good look at his head, which is a really nice head. And again, very well done. My detail on my camera is not very good. I really need a new camera. But it's still very blocky, even though it's not an arm anymore. Like, it's not the arm socket anymore, but it's still a very nice head, very blocky. Everything about him is blocky. He is a very blocky bot. But but he is a really good figure in appearance-wise. Very accurate to what you'd expect Sinnertwin to look like. You can kind of put the legs wherever you want to. I prefer to put them like that. Let's move on, though, to articulation. Arms are exactly the same. They're the beast mode legs. I mean, the only thing you get really more is that, which doesn't really count. Head is on a ball joint, though he doesn't get a lot of up and down. You can kind of cheat and have him look up, but that breaks transformation and doesn't look very good. And he's not wanting to snap back down for some reason. Can rotate, full 360 of movement. Has a waist joint, also very good. Hips are ball jointed, can go out that far, can go forward that far, can go back to that far, though we'll start hitting his heads on his back. Full 360 degrees in the in the thigh swivel, and 90 degree knee bend. Now, pretty good articulation. Standard, but good. He has a waist joint, which is always nice. And, of course, he can hold his gun. Which he has a gun, not a sword, so I really approve that. The only really new details to speak of is the chest. He doesn't really have many other details other than that in the head. I know I'm kind of breaking things up, but I forgot to mention the chest, and I can't edit things as effectively as I would like. But very nice detail. I like that he kind of looks like a bit retro in his design, which I really do enjoy. But yeah, overall pretty good. He's got good stability as he melded to a natural A stance. So he can hold a pose very well. And of course you can take his silly prime armor, fold this down, and attach it to the center of his chest, and have a prime or a face in his chest. Which I feel in general, the ones that have a peg in rather than use these pegs to snap in look a lot better. And of course you can take this part out and it's a little gun, and it looks better because it's not translucent. So you can have him hold that. But in general, he's a pretty good figure. He's, like I said, he's my least favorite of the Terracons, but that's only in comparison to the other Terracons. He's still a good figure. It's just his proportions are a little off to me, and it's not the proportions I prefer. But I'm going to do the rest of the Terracons, and we'll see how I feel about the other ones. But overall, I think he is a really nice bot, and let's take this off. You can also have it as like a bash fist, which is what I prefer to do with it. Anyway, let's get him in an action pose and see this off. Yeah, of course, wide-legged stances aren't going to be 100% good for him, but because he doesn't have any ankle tilt, but he can accomplish them. Anyway, that is Sinnertwin. I'm glad to be back, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, like, comment, subscribe. Consider sticking around for my live streams, which I will do Wednesday and Saturday. And I apologize if I'm rusty. Remember, this has been a very long time since I've recorded videos because of various problems. So, if I'm rusty and take a few weeks to get back on the step of things, I apologize. Anyway, see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed this video. Bye! I still don't have a catchphrase.